Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to educate you and talk to you about Substance Use Disorder Treatment Month. So apparently in Hawaii, they're now having a Substance Use Disorder Treatment Month. Now, and I appreciate you may not live in Hawaii, we're in Florida, but there's some really interesting things in this article. I'll post a link to the article in the description for the video. So here's what they're talking about. Addiction is a disease. I love that. Which is something that for a long time was not considered to be the truth. A lot of people said, it's just a choice, right? And that was a conversation we'd have with families about, it's a disease versus their loved one just is making poor choices. We're learning more and more about addiction. It was stigmatized for so very long because like mental health, we don't necessarily see physical manifestation of ailment. Sometimes it's written off as the person is crazy. Yeah, how about that? Addiction can also vary in methods and practices. Some people may be addicted to opioids like heroin, while others may be addicted to cigarettes, alcohol, gambling, or even the internet. Yeah, we're seeing that more often, right? Especially, we all have cell phones, and you walk into a restaurant and everybody's on their cell phone. It's like we're no longer communicating. It says the reason behind this is because addiction is a brain process. When humans use or do something that brings them pleasure, such as smoking, using, or gambling, their brain releases a pleasure chemical that can cause someone to literally chase the high. Addiction centers around that pleasure-reward pathway, where our brain gets very fixated on anything that brought us a lot of pleasure or joy. And so it sort of starts rewiring our brain in the way we're centering our focus. So this is just really great stuff here. There's no immunity to substance use disorder, and anyone of any status, background, or identity can develop the disease. No truer words were spoken. We have represented families from, different, wealth levels to different racial backgrounds, religious backgrounds, gay, straight, the transgender community. This affects potentially anybody and everybody. And so there's some just really great stuff here. I'll post the link, but the reason I wanted to bring this to your attention is because we still see every once in a while, especially when we speak to mums and dads about their adult children, there's this sort of notion of why can't they stop using? Why won't they stop using? So you've got the stigma, and then you also have the sort of the shame and guilt from the parents. We did something wrong. We were a bad, you were a bad mother, you were a bad father, whatever it is. You got to take that out of the equation. Okay, this is not about, first of all, it's not about you being lousy parents or good parents. It's a disease. It's a disease. Listen, I just went through my own health scare. Nothing to do with my parents. It just happened, right? We get sick sometimes, and it just is what it is. And also, it's not about your adult child being a good or bad person. They got a disease. And so the way to deal with this, like any disease, is treatment. So the question is, how are we going to get them there, right? If they are suffering, which means that your family is suffering, in all likelihood, they're not capable of saving themselves. Their brain has been kidnapped. And this article talks about the whole rewiring and the pleasure centers of the brain. And I sort of, the way I sort of, analyze this and explain to families is it's as if their brain had been kidnapped, right? It looks like them, sounds like them. That's not who's running the show right now. This disease is running the show, and it's going to fight like hell to go to treatment because, treatment is potentially the end of the disease. And, the disease in and of itself is trying to fight for its own survival. But your loved one also probably subconsciously, if not consciously, knows there's a problem here, which is why if you can get them to go to treatment, they typically don't stay long enough, right? They're in, they're out, they're in, they're out, and you've got this sort of, revolving door at the treatment center. The key to recovery is to get them into a clinically appropriate facility and keep them there long enough. And it may or may not involve some med compliance. And so, the idea of using legal intervention is to get control, and it depends on your situation, the facts of the case, and really what your goals are. How much control do you really want, right? Do we want to get them into treatment? Do we also want to control their finances, have access to their medical records, restrict their ability to travel, things of that nature? And again, we can tailor make this, towards what your goals are. So if you're a family out there, you'd like to have a conversation with us, please give us a call. We can talk to you about what options may or may not be available for your family. If you have any comments or questions, please post them. I read them all, and I typically respond within 24 hours. If you want me to make a video about a specific issue that your family's dealing with, post it. I'm happy to do so. And if you like the content, please give me a thumbs up. If you want more of this, please subscribe to the channel. And with that said, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.